This Wednesday, Snapshot 20W16A released, and we're finally able to bonemeal Azalea. This also allows us to make completely player-autonomous tree farms, since we can get the saplings by bonemealing some moss. So on the SciCraft Snapshot server, we immediately tried to come up with some concepts. I started with this little contraption here, where the basic idea was to bonemeal some moss, have it spread to another block here, and if a tree grows, we push it up and blow it up. We further iterated on this design, as you can see by the labyrinth here, similar to the fungus farm back then. Here we have just some further iterations that partially even blew up. Some other concepts where we pushed the TNT closer with some water streams. This one was already really close. We have a working version of that concept. So this is the first somewhat working version that we got. We can turn it on here, and it just tries to get saplings here. It bonemeals that spot here and also the two moss blocks to get the highest chance of getting any plant on there. And once we get a sapling here, there we go. We grow the tree. It detected that, it dispensed the TNT, and it pushes up the trunk here at the exact correct timing. The disadvantages of this farm are that most of the tree is just up there, not getting harvested. The logs here in the middle get pushed up further and further since it doesn't blow up the whole tree, which also at some point would cause it to break if there are too many logs that pile up here. And also most of the items just land on top of this huge bulk of redstone, and only about 2/3 or so get collected here in the water streams. Also another disadvantage is that it only has one spot where it actually tries to use the Azalea saplings we get. So if there's one here, then that just gets wasted more or less, since it gets punched out and collected, but it doesn't grow to a tree, as you could just see there. Because of all of those disadvantages and mistakes, I decided to start a new concept, which is this one. Here we also bonemeal one moss block, but it can spread to up to 5 stone blocks. So if I turn this on here, yeah, there you can see we already got a tree the first try. Then let's turn this off again. We also have more TNT in this system. We have 5 separate dupers. We can turn that on here. And then the TNT just gets dropped on 5 different locations, one after another. That blows up most of the blocks. There are only rarely some left behind. The trunk in the middle is pretty tough. That sometimes takes a few TNT to get blown up. But we don't have the issue with the trunk getting pushed up further and further at all, since we have another TNT up here that takes care of that. So let me now slow the game down a little bit. Let's go for quarter speed. And I'll turn this on again. So now we can see what's happening step by step. We bonemealed this moss block, it spread to those 5. We got plants on top. All those dispensers in the back here fire. Then those pistons below punch out the moss blocks and push up the trees if there are any. Then we have 2 clean stone generators here that push in 5 stone. And we have a trapdoor here, a waterlogged one, that spreads water all over here to flush down all the items. Also a nice side effect of the system with the stone is that we get the rooted dirt, since when the tree grows, it converts the moss block underneath to rooted dirt. This is very nice, since we can this way also get rooted dirt, which I just move to the side here, and then it gets pushed up and blown up by the TNT that lands here. And this is some very compact redstone. This part here is meh. It was way worse before, but Rechenol already helped me improve that a lot. He also helped me with other parts of the farm, so he was very nice help here. Unfortunately, this farm is not self-sustainable at all. You'd need a way larger space for the moss to spread to achieve that. You could probably add some stone generators in the back here that just generate stone and punch out the moss once it's spread. But I didn't really go for self-sustainability here. The goal was just a fully player autonomous farm. So you could build this, add a chunk loader, and have it run as long as it's supplied with bone meal. You can also make a separate bone meal farm with the moss and attach it to here. 1 or 2 of those would probably be enough to supply the whole thing with bone meal, because those moss farms also don't need a player nearby. In terms of the rates, we get a lot of different items from this farm, but the most interesting ones are probably the oak logs. We get 533 of those, and also the rooted dirt. We get about 45 of those. At the bottom for the item collection, I just added 4 filters for the items that are not compostable: oak logs, rooted dirt, sticks, and also cobblestone. And I just noticed that the log is already filled up. And the rest I just compost here and turn into bone meal. Unfortunately, as I said, it's not remotely enough to resupply the whole farm with bone meal, so I didn't add a dispenser tower. Oh, and also I finally found a use for the raw ore blocks. They are great for filters because nobody will ever use them. Okay, let's get back to the redstone though. I want to explain some small circuits in here that I find kinda interesting. And also, in case you don't need the rooted dirt, you could just add an obsidian here and remove all of that part. This way, all the items still get flushed down, but the rooted dirt just gets converted into moss again. So if we go a whole cycle in this machine, let's turn down the tick rate a little further. It all starts with this sticky piston and this observer. Once these repeaters turn off, the observer will move down, activate this trapdoor, and these observers activate the dropper tower, which bonemeals the moss, and also this piston. The other observers activate this fade out clock here that activates the droppers that bonemeal the potential saplings. Once that has faded out completely, this piston here retracts, powering this block and this redstone here. That powers these rails and also this node block, which powers these rails a second time because of the observer. Those just extends these pistons twice, since the first time they would drop the block above here, and then the second time they retract it again. Then the other redstone line goes all the way up here. Here, this redstone dust ends up with signal strength 6. That's very important because of this different type of fade out clock that Rechen showed me. This activates this observer exactly 5 times, which causes this piston to push 5 times, and the other 2 pistons for the 2 separate stone generators 3 and 2 times. So this one would push the stone in the middle here, for that one to push it where it belongs, and same on the other side with this piston here. Yeah, as I said, it's all very tightly packed and kind of difficult to see. So then, even with tick rate 2, it was too fast to explain it, but once this fade out clock is on the second last cycle, this comparator here will let the signals through here, so you can see that again. That was the first cycle, it didn't power this redstone. Second cycle, doesn't power the redstone. Third cycle, it always activates this piston. Doesn't power the redstone. And I think this cycle should be the second last one. Yeah, now it powers the redstone, activates this fade out clock that activates the trapdoor that flushes the whole thing, and also it activates these repeaters, which closes the cycle with the piston here again. This piston also was very convenient to place the on-off switch, since if it's always extended, it will just stop the farm. For the Bonemeal distribution, I just added 2 chests here temporarily. You could add, as I said, another bonemeal farm or a larger storage here, or a shulker box unloader. And this just distributes the bone meal over these 5 hopper lanes, and one of them splits up again to also fill up this dropper tower here that bone meals the single moss. And that's already it. I hope I explained most of the redstone properly, and if you have any further questions, please ask them in the comments. I'll try to answer most redstone related ones. And I hope you enjoyed. I won't share a world download just yet. I will wait for some further changes in the snapshots, and depending on whether they change a lot or not, I will either redesign the farm or maybe even make a second video with a tutorial and also a world download. But I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!